Mercedes-Benz, a name that is synonymous with the pioneer of motor cars worldwide. The very name itself bears witness to the highest level of quality and unfathomable reliability that's second to none. With such a top-notch, world-renowned status symbol, Mercedes-Benz celebrates 125 years of being in the automobile industry, with enormous triumph and pride. At the special event, Mercedes-Benz put out their oldest yet the finest cars for auction at the Pebble Beach Car Week in Monterey, California. Here you'll get to catch a sight of those extravagant cars being sold to the biggest automobile enthusiasts. Note to remember that, previously, they used to belong to the wealthiest people at that time. Here goes the glimpses, statements and past events, with the backstory of what pushed Mercedes-Benz to be where they are today. The name Mercedes-Benz itself elicits a status that cannot be withheld. It is the company that invented cars, where engineering and art are combined at its finest. But even for this luxury brand, there is one car that stands out from the rest. Just hear what car enthusiasts had to say about the Mercedes-Benz 540k Special Roadster.
It's just breathtaking, a car to lust after. Well, the 540k Special Roadster, the first time I saw it I couldn't believe it. Thought it must be something from a Hollywood film. Like, how could you drive a car like this on the road? It is too beautiful. It is just stunning.
It's undeniably an automobile that even the best automobile collectors would dream of.
When I was much younger, a neighbor of mine owned such a car. It always remained as an extraordinary car in my mind.
Beautiful, extraordinary and breathtaking.
These cars have been one of the most important cars in the history of cars. This is unlike anything I have ever experienced before. Mercedes-Benz's attention to detail, in my opinion, is second to none.
No car built in the history of Mercedes-Benz is considered as beautiful as the 540k Special. From 1886 to the present day, the attention to design and detail has been a trademark of Mercedes-Benz, and several cars from their most classic collection are about to go up for sale, which proves their legacy does not diminish with time. On the opening day of Pebble Beach Car Week, the Tour d'Elegance, presented by Rolex, some of the finest motor cars attending the event, also caught the attention of Monterey, California. This annual event, hosted for the Concours, gave a chance to the automobile enthusiasts to peek at some of the most robust and luxurious cars for the first time. Regarding the event, Bill Lyon of Lyon Automobile Collection said it seems to be the mecca of car activities in the US. Here, cars built by some of the most renowned manufacturers are present. Just to be chosen to show at the event is a supreme honor. And 2011 marks the 125th anniversary of the creation of the automobile and the very company that invented it. On another note, the global impact of the automobile cannot be overplayed more. When the cars are showcased in the Tour d'Elegance, it gives a clear picture of how the automobiles have embraced the stellar technology over time. The history of the evolution of this automobile industry is deep and diverse, with more than bumps and bruises along the way. And that is exactly evident in the history of Mercedes-Benz. Michael Bock, the CEO of Mercedes-Benz Museum GmbH, said,
"The importance of inventions, innovations and engineering is the main point of the company at the end of the day, because that's how it started 125 years ago, with those three men who invented something."
In Monterey, 5 of Mercedes-Benz's most preeminent automobiles will be featured. They are expected to sell at high prices for their elusiveness and most sought-after qualities. That's why they become the center point for the highest bids, even compared to the lofty cars at Pebble Beach. Michael Bock thinks the 500Ks and the 540Ks, especially with that Special Roadster body, have had the privilege of harnessing the proper technical skills typical of producing cars with such high-caliber engine with a high horsepower. But such cars with more focus on engine superiority often lack subtlety from a design perspective. But a Special Roadster didn't forget to take the design into account too. It was embellished with marvelous design and hence led to elegance, which is absolutely fascinating from today's point of view. To truly understand these cars, it's important to know about their initial history. In retrospect, it all started 125 years ago. Gottlieb Daimler, the main father-founder of this world's leading automobile giant, was born in 1834 in a small city called Schorndorf. There's an old saying that a diamond cuts diamond. Daimler found Wilhelm Maybach through an acquaintance, who was an orphan at the time. Their long-lasting friendship caused Maybach to be hired in the company. While Daimler focused more on the automobile, Maybach turned out to be the technical brain behind the company that Daimler founded. He honed in more on mobility. Daimler and Maybach had one goal in mind: to replace steam engines that were dominant back in those days to a gasoline-powered engine. On this note, Carl Ludwigsen, author and Mercedes-Benz historian, said,
Daimler was interested in the engine for its own sake. He wanted it to power aircrafts, balloons, marine uses, and more. In fact, he bought a carriage and put his engine to see how it works as a motor vehicle power unit.
Daimler was a guy not to be confined to one portion of the transportation only. He envisioned how to design and craft the engines suitable for all three ways of transport. It means putting his engines into coaches on lands, boats, water, and airships in the air, according to Michael Bock. And that's what the three-pointed stars, trademarked and bespoke to Mercedes in the logo, stands for. These three-pointed stars denote earth, water, and air. However, unbeknownst to Daimler and Maybach, an engineer named Carl Benz, who lived less than 200 miles away, was working on a two-cylinder version of a gasoline-powered automobile. Carl Ludwigsen, not to be confused with Carl Benz, stated that Carl Benz had become a partner in a machine shop. He then had an opportunity to become the owner of this business. When he got married to Bertha, she funded what it took for this to happen. In January 1886, Carl, with the help of Bertha's finance, applied for a patent. The uniqueness on which the patent must be successful was his three-wheel design, which was the first of its kind and had a gasoline-powered engine. But the immediate success he hoped for was a galaxy miles away, shows Bertha. To this, Ludwigsen said that 2 years after the invention of the automobile, his courageous wife took her two sons to visit their parents' house in the three-wheeled car. Since it was 140 kilometers away, newspapers would cover the news, referring to it as the first long-distance drive of such a vehicle. Along the way, she bought gasoline in small quantities from pharmacies. Pharmacy was the only place where the gasoline used to be found. Her pioneering journey took one full day and had exactly the effect she expected. Ludwigsen added again,
No one had any sense if these horseless carriages could be reliable or useful. In fact, they were thought of as gizmos that could never replace horses. So, for Bertha to demonstrate the practical use of it was significant.
Michael Bock added how this step turned the influence of sales, considering the patent bond Benz applied for. As there was no TV or radio, newspapers were the only communication channels people would follow and get informed, so they wrote about the marvelous story. And with very different goals, Benz and Daimler would forever change the way people travel. Fast forward to 1899, Benz made a record as the world's leading producer of cars. It made 2,000 cars by that time, which no other companies could make anywhere close to possible. As per Ludwigsen, how did it gain such a name? We'll find it out. Coming up, a reputation built on racing. Following Carl Benz's invention of the automobile and the beginning of the 20th century, every major automobile company rushed to build race cars. Building the race cars got into vogue, and the challenge was to stand out in the crowd. On this, Casey Annis, the publisher and editor of Vintage Race Car magazine, said, automobile manufacturers began to grow in numbers. Since cars were something new to them, they stopped fretting about who would dominate over whom first. Everyone was intrigued to find out how the cars were made and what could increase the speed to run them fast. He added, it was the period of technological advancement and change. They were pioneers of the truest sense, as no one had ever traveled that fast before. Besides, traveling faster at that time could take a heavy toll on the driver as well as the passengers inside it. Doctors' stern advice was, human bodies could barely breathe in air at over 60 miles an hour. Therefore, exceeding that speed by traveling faster, you'd suffocate for not being able to overcome the pressure wave. Why would people not listen to it? As this was the first time ever, they were going to experience such speed at that level without any prior experience. No doubt motorsport has always tried and tested the limit of technology to differentiate the professionals from the rest. Jochen Mass, two-time world sports car champion, said, "Every manufacturer strives to prove their cars better over others. And for that, they always choose racing cars as they excel both reliability and performance levels simultaneously in the racing field, unlike traditional vehicles." Tommy Kendall, four-time Trans Am champion, said from experience, "When drivers compete on the racetrack, their true abilities and the quality of their performance become evident. Any shortcomings or weaknesses in their skills or their vehicle's functionality will become apparent during the race. Simply looking good or having a sleek appearance won't make up for deficiencies in performance or functionality. In racing, what matters most is how well a driver and their vehicle actually perform, not just how they appear." Back then, publicity from racing brought recognition in unpredictable ways. Here, Carl Ludvigsen continued the story. Emil Jelinek was a Viennese diplomat, and he met a lot of wealthy people who were quite excited about the new idea of automobiling, which made him think he could sell some cars to those people. And he became familiar with the products made by Daimler, but he wasn't very happy with the designs of the cars. So, he pushed Maybach to come up with a new kind of Daimler. He added how honeycomb radiator, mechanically operated things were revolutionary at the time. Once Jelinek owned a new car in 1901, like anyone, he wanted to give it a unique name that would make the French market buy that name. To quest the name, he chose his eldest daughter's name, which was Mercedes. Daimler's new Mercedes excelled in the early 1900s. In the 1908 French Grand Prix, it narrowly beat Benz. In 1909, Benz introduced the Blitzen-Benz, the most successful race car that set and broke its own land speed record, reaching over 125 miles per hour. Casey Annis emphasized how the Blitzen-Benz was designed to break land speed records. With its massive 21.5-liter engine pumping out 850 foot-pounds of torque, it packed an incredible amount of power. Despite its imposing size, it achieved something truly remarkable. It set 3 consecutive records in 3 different years, with 3 different drivers. Since that was the era of getting noticed fast with setting records, Mercedes and Benz were getting the spotlight individually. Back to racing, it was a source of national pride and national insult as well. For Mercedes, it was very important to prove they're capable of creating reliable and solid race cars, as well as beautiful cars. 4 days before Pebble Beach Car Week, Air Force General William Lyon and his son Bill Lyon send their cars off to Monterey. They will be bidding farewell to the 500K Roadsters, 540K Special Roadster, and a 540K Special Coupe from their huge collection of automobiles. Although World War I was over, the 1930s were devastating times. Beauty of the car was drawn as seemingly luxury, at least for the car, all due to the economic crisis and inflation taking over the world. Ludvigsen recalled saying there was a recession followed by humongous inflation, and Germany was sealed off from the international export markets for doing trading with any countries, including European nations too. After the World War, people became more reluctant to buy German cars. They had this impression that Germany lost the war, as would their cars in performance. So the situation got precarious for both Benz and Daimler. To this, Michael Bock added, as the economy fell increasingly harsh for both Daimler and Benz to sustain in the market, they signed a mutual agreement in 1926. Manufacturing the cars individually meant they would have to invest into plants, infrastructure, and materials individually. It would be almost hard rock bottom for the both companies to economically challenge their production. As such, when the banks said if they wanted to survive they needed to merge, they merged and became Daimler-Benz. However, after a successful merging, the duo secured a high-profile ranking in the automobile industry for their ability to make exceptional cars. The newly merged company started to plan for their future goals and visions. Since the customers wanted to see their favorite cars being polished with beauty as before, the company started producing the most beautiful cars with state-of-the-art design. Moving on to 1935, Mercedes-Benz released a striking new design that would suffice for the owners to drive without requiring any chauffeurs. The 380K was easy to drive, but underpowered. The company resented their mistakes immediately after detecting it and corrected them as soon as possible. It results in a new 500K showcased in the Berlin Auto Show, a combined outcome of beauty and beast. Bill Lyon always liked this one due to the low windshield and short bobtail. He found it incredibly racy looking. Michael Bock said how the 500Ks and 540Ks always were way ahead of their time. It was because of engines with 8-cylinder compressor driven with high horsepower output, meaning it's a fast yet easy to drive car in Germany. Carl said, on the road cars in the 1930s, they kept the supercharging system they had used from the outset of the 1920s. This system allowed the driver to achieve full power by engaging the supercharger for optimal performance. However, if the driver chose not to be racy on the road, they could drive the car in a more relaxed manner. This way, they could save more gasoline. This flexibility in the setup of the car was described as quite versatile. One special thing about the supercharger is, it gave it an extra boost as a race car. About this, the father-son duo said it's hard to let go and drives wonderfully. Collecting such magnificent cars can be emotional as you get attached to it. They hoped it would find a good home in the car show. Following the devastation of the war, they called for an urgent need to push the production of this great legacy back to rebuild. Mercedes-Benz built as few as less than 500 cars of the 500K and 540K's models. The craftsmanship and detailing of each car were recorded, which became invaluable when they were up for sale. Experts from the Mercedes-Benz Classic Center were dispatched to verify the accuracy of the build of cars. Rob Myers, chairman and founder of RM Auctions, said, once they consigned the grouping of Mercedes-Benz automobiles for auction. To which Dennis Nicotra, the owner of 540K Sport Cabriolet A and car collector, responded saying the verifying part was a brilliant idea to give it credibility and prove authenticity. 2 experts from Germany were sent to personally verify the number of all 5 cars to inspect the authenticity of those masterpiece cars in the biggest sales of Mercedes-Benz in history. Dennis also said how wonderful it was to watch them verify and get to know things they never knew. Now, Alain Squindo, editor-in-chief of RM Auction Publications, said they brought everything from original build sheets to delivery paperwork and articles written by trustworthy experts. All these completed a cohesive portfolio of the cars, along with images to corroborate exactly what was needed. In Michael Bock's words, producing cars is a handcraft, where every part was put together in a single car, and it's important to know every part was matched properly. About the inspection procedure, the experts tested the cars for several hours to cross-check if the cars were in the same state as exactly as they were at the time of their manufacturing. They would also see if anything is missing from then to now. For that, the experts also took floorboards out to match the numbers, along with checking different components for accuracy. Later on, it was a relief to be confirmed that the cars were accurately made as described. Mercedes-Benz Classic Center promises to preserve their legacy for future generations. Upon inspection, it is likely to be the case that a car which is 70 or 80 years old might have gone through a lot, or at least some transformation. But Mercedes proved it wrong by revealing all of their old models' cars not to have gone through even an inch change since their wheels were on the road. It was like watching history being covered in an archaeological sense. On Saturday night in Monterey, car enthusiasts flocked together to witness the sale of the ultra-exclusive 500Ks and 540Ks from Mercedes-Benz. Rob Myers strongly stated, Mercedes-Benz was on top of the line with Rolls-Royce, Duesenberg, and people who collected these exclusive automobiles were very into their collection. Bill Lyon focused on how wealthy people were, not only into collecting the exclusive cars, but they also were keen on knowing about German engineering and the dependability of Mercedes. A car of unmatched beauty and excellence, this car can only be perceived as a masterpiece. These cars were the pillar of luxury and extravaganza. Special Roadster car bidding started from $1 million to $2.4 million, and it was sold at $2.8 million. Buyers collaborated with the designer of their choice to create the car of their dreams. For instance, gifted bodybuilders made cars that were well-bodied as well. And it's worth mentioning that the bodies for the 500Ks and 540Ks were created in-house by specialists at the Sindelfingen factory. Ludvigsen recalls that the factory had a special construction section known as Sonderbau to make amazing and unwanted cars that would instigate the commotion among car enthusiasts at the event and complement the advanced characteristics of their chassis. Next, it was the turn of the 1936 Mercedes-Benz 540K Sport Cabriolet A. The owner, Dennis, said he loved this specific car because of the design, long nose, the setback grille, and the dual spares on the back. It's such a magnificent car embedded with technologically advanced features that the only way to describe it is to get behind the steering wheel and drive it. Only then its sophistication can be comprehended, as its driving experience can be any more terrific. So when it was up for auction, the bidding started at $1 million, then $2.25 million, and continued until sold at $2.7 million finally. After that, the 1939 Mercedes-Benz 540K Special Roadster was showcased in a sleek black shade, another coachwork by Sindelfingen. It's so elegant and unique that it can give other prominent 540K Special Roadsters a run for their money. Just check out the design and structure of this beauty. Jochen Mass praised these cars, saying they are the epitome of beauty and design capacity. Every detail in the car on their scrutiny turns out unique and sublime. On this note, Ludvigsen spoke about customization, be it fitted suitcases in the back or walnut cabinetry. You could personalize everything. Not to mention, the generation of today gets dazzled at the very sight of these classic cars for valid reasons, such as the dashboard is inset with mother of pearl, and everything is perfectly furnished from layer to layer, inch to inch. So now, getting back to the auction. For this one-of-kind car, the auctioneer began the bidding at $1 million, like the previous one. It continued to 2.5, 3, 3.6, and the deal was triumphantly sealed at $4.2 million. About these cars, it's no news. Mercedes-Benz builds technologically advanced cars like they always do, but they do not really build anything of this sort in this era, which is technologically ahead of that time, as well as design was at its highest premium. That's the reason why these cars are so sought after till date. Obvious that these cars will not fall into the hands of ordinary people, harsh to say that. Coming back to Rob Myers, he recalled the 1930s when industrialists, people who were well off, and genuine car enthusiasts had these cars in their possession. In addition to that, the company has always prioritized customers' preferences. Michael Bock put his thoughts into it by saying the ones who purchased these luxury cars were obviously wealthy. But these wealthy people didn't like them, just because they exuded a coat of luxury and premium stature. Innovation was another motivator these people were heavily invested in. Moving on to the next one, another wonder was waiting to be displayed. The 1935 Mercedes-Benz 500K Roadster by Sindelfingen. If you call this red star of the 1935 Berlin Auto Show less than exquisite and sensuous, it would be unfair. Its classic windshield, external exhaust headers, including a supercharger with trimmed chrome, added to the beauty of this motorcar even more. For this splendid piece, the bidding was raised $500,000 more at $1.5 million. With anticipation and excitement, the bidding instantaneously rose up to 2.5, 2.75, 3, 3.1, and finally sold at $3.425 million. In that way, another proud collector bagged this dreamy piece. Let's go back to Jochen for a bit. He emphasized how the increase in value and change of time would limit the build of such cars again. Bill Lyon, being an enthusiast himself, added, "The buyers of these cars are people who appreciate craftsmanship and design that came to a halt after World War II." If we look back a bit more, in 1945, after the unfortunate occurrences of WW2, the company was thrown a set of roadblocks. It got to such a rough point that the car body factory situated at Sindelfingen was 85% destroyed, according to Ludvigsen. The factory in Untertürkheim sustained 70% damage too. Even the wreckage in Stuttgart was beyond definition due to its massive destruction. After waiting for a few months, the executives at Daimler-Benz gathered the courage to pick up the pieces and start everything from scratch. But it was easier said than done. As the employees of the company had nothing left, they had to start working for a livelihood, seeing no other option. The situation was devastating, yet they were looking for newfound hope even though they worked for one meal a day and a minimum salary. Why do you think they did it? Well, they developed a sense of loyalty, which inspired them to get back on their feet, clean the debris, and create beautiful vehicles again. That sounds like an inspirational story today, but it's exactly what happened. There was a silver lining in all things bad, by the way. The machines were apparently unharmed from inside, so they could kickstart the production of cars again post-war. In 1951, Mercedes-Benz came up with the sensible 300. Regarding the 300, Ludvigsen informed that the 300 was only a 3-litre car with a 180 cubic engine. However, it was quite spacious, and the reason they made it with less capacity is that they felt that it matched the economy back then. However, there was a twist. Mercedes-Benz badly had the urge to get back to racing. As expected, they felt they should race again to empower themselves on the road to innovation. Ludvigsen went on to describe that the manager unabashedly admitted to the engineers that they fell short of money. The chief development engineer Rudolf Uhlenhaut knew of it before and didn't get overwhelmed with such a gesture. He had rather inspired and assured the managers and shared his plan with them. He proposed that they would have to utilize the parts of the 300S model. Michael Bock enlightened on this further. They took the engine of the 300S, inserted 3 carburetors on it, and made something even better with gull-wing doors, the 300SL. And to everyone's surprise, it won the race championship by the end of the year. This stellar achievement obviously gave a sense of pride and reliability to the employees of Mercedes. And you know what the best part is? The 300SL's design became popular because of the gold wing style. You could extend its frame high in the cockpit, and that was the only way to lift the doors. The place between the driver's seat and the outside has such an enormous space that a normal door wouldn't fit there. Hence, gold wing style could be the only resort. A truly stylish addition indeed. Nonetheless, they were optimistic about the Grand Prix. In 1954, Mercedes-Benz also introduced the W196. It drove more swiftly in the tracks due to a well-built body. This also paved the way to work on the company's next creation, the 300 SLR. On this point, let's hear from Sir Stirling Moss Ober, the winner of 1955 Mille Miglia. With Sir Ober's determination, this car proved its racing expertise with flying colours in the 1955 Mille Miglia. He reminisced how he reached 165.1 miles an hour, which clearly proved how great of a car it was. Every time he gets in this race car, he is bedazzled by the performance of this amazing piece of motorwork. About this, Ludvigsen compared its lower capacity by saying Maserati had a higher capacity of 4.5-litre cars, Ferrari had 3.9-litre, Jaguar had 3.8-litre, and Cunningham had 5.2-litre. So they needed to bring their best foot forward to compete against these, and they proved their worth. It was the first time a German car had won in Mille Miglia, leaving Italian cars behind. Since the Goldwing became increasingly famous, it led to another success, named the 300 SL Roadster. This happens to be the favorite car of 4 times Trans Am champion, Tommy Kendall. He finds the proportion of this car elegant yet aggressive at a time. Ludvigsen also appreciated it. He pointed out the addition of a horizontal open grille with a star in the middle. It simply showed a sporty characteristic without fuss. And with that on their bag, Mercedes-Benz got back to doing what they did best for their passionate clientele: create the Roadsters. On the occasion of celebrating 125 years, Mercedes-Benz also debuted the all-new AMG Roadster. With 550 horsepower and 3,600 pounds of acceleration, its standard is surely distinctive. Let's get back to the event once again. Next, it was time to eye upon the 1937 Mercedes-Benz 540k Special Roadster by Sindelfingen. Judging by the appearance alone, it's one of the most chic, elegant and well-engineered motorcars that left the spectators in awe. This 80-year-old Mercedes-Benz proved modern-day roadsters have a promising legacy to catch up to. In a word, you can simply describe it as an automotive piece of art. They are appreciated by enthusiastic collectors, including 4 times Concours Elegance Best in Show winners, Sam and Emily Mann. They termed it as the quintessential classic elegance. Not only that, but they specifically pointed out and highly admired the curves, forms, jewelry, and interior of the car. As you must have assumed, this stunner's bidding started from $4 million. Guess at which price it was sold? Well, the bidding went up to 5, 6.5, 7, 7.5, and then it was eventually sold at a whopping $8,800,000. This price tag, no matter how high, for something so top-notch sounds justified, doesn't it? Clearly, no one can deny they have been one of the most significant and well-renowned cars in the history of automobiles. No wonder it was a pioneering car in its day, and is still representative of the outstanding legacy that Mercedes-Benz never fails to keep intact. When all was said and done, Michael Bott concluded, 125 years ago, Mercedes-Benz made a bold statement like no other by inventing the very concept of automobile and automobile itself. Long story short, it's prevalent in the spirit of the age-old company, not only to build extravagant cars, but make this broad industry stand out with utmost pride and resilience. Mercedes-Benz, a true instance of automotive excellence, has journeyed through 125 years of innovation, elegance, and unmatched craftsmanship. As we go through the roads of history and untold backstory, we get a chance to peek at the milestones that define this one-of-a-kind brand. From the iconic 540k Special Roadster to the modern-day AMG Roadster, each car portrays a legacy of beauty, power, and precision. Witnessing these automotive masterpieces at events like Pebble Beach Car Week is not just a way to reminisce and cherish the glorious past, but a celebration of a heritage that continues to inspire every generation. As we wrap up, let us remember that Mercedes-Benz isn't just a car company. It's an instance of human ingenuity and the spirit of progress. Here's to 125 years of excellence and to many more miles of innovation ahead. Drive on with Mercedes-Benz, where the ride is as extraordinary as the destination.